Now, dear friends, so in answer to the question where we have come from, I want to simply now summarize what I said. As far as the body of a human being is concerned, it has come from the physical universe. As far as the spirit and the soul of human being is concerned, it has come from the heaven of the will of God. Having understood this, now we are going to the next page now. And I'm going to draw, a diagram again for you. This time, I'm going to put down a human being make him happy, all right? A human body, all right? Then I'm going to give it two more elements. Now, when we study the Holy Scriptures, they all, with the exception of the Baha'i faith, talk about human soul and Baha'i faith also talks about the human soul. And we say also that this human soul is the same as human spirit. However, from the writings of Abdul Baha and talks of Abdul Baha, in some answered question and in promulgation of the universal peace, which I said the talks of Abdul Baha recorded in the United States and Canada, Abdul Baha says the spirit and the human soul and human spirit are the same. However, they have different functions of the one entity. That's as far as my research shows. Now, while I'm saying this, let me clarify this. Whatever Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, Shoghi Effendi, or the Holy Scriptures say that I go and pick the Holy Bible, the Holy Quran, the books of Baha'u'llah, all the revelation of Baha'u'llah, all the revealed word and written writings of Abdul Baha, all the writings of the guardian, the Shoghi Effendi, that if I don't quote exactly the same sentence that they have penned with their own hands, or is written in the Bible and the Quran, what I am saying really, I am paraphrasing them, or if I don't show you exactly the text, it means this is my understandings of them. This is my understanding of them. But as I have put it down in your syllabus at the very beginning, it's based on the holy writings of Baha'u'llah, the Baha, Abdul Baha, Shoghi Effendi. It's based on them. But naturally, it's my understanding of it. It's one way of looking at it. From my research shows, from what I've studied from the writings and the talks of Abdul Baha, that yes, human soul and spirit are the same entity, but they have different functions. Because Abdul Baha says one of the functions of the soul is to be the intermediary between the spirit and the body. Another definition that Abdul Baha says, he says soul has got, the soul of human being has got something extra from the soul of all the other creatures, for example, animal, vegetable, and mineral, and that is intellect. Intellect. He says that through this intelligence that God has given to the soul of man, man can relate to his spirit. Another function that Abdul Baha specifically says that's the job of the soul, which we can say, well, it at the same time is this job of the spirit, is that it is the controlling power of the body. It keeps the body together. It manages all its functions. That is what gives it life. So I am now answering this question more fully than before. That when we say, who are we? We are made up of a body that is from the physical universe. And because it follows the laws of the nature and the physical universe, it was integrated. It comes at a certain time to being at the time of conception, and then it disintegrates and dies in time. However, human being has been given a spirit and soul that controls the body, has got intellect, has got emotions, has got willpower, that is supernatural. It's beyond what nature has. That's why it can manipulate the nature. And that this spirit and soul of the human being, according to exact word of God, the revelation of God, it is going to live eternally. It's never going to die. It's going to live eternally. When we say so, who are we? We are made of body and soul and a spirit. Soul and a spirit comes from the heaven of the will of God. Human body comes from the physical universe, which is again the manifestation of God. But this human spirit and the soul has got a specific individuality, a specific personality, that this personality and this individuality as an entity is going to live forever, eternally. Body comes from the physical kingdom, physical universe, and the spirit comes from the heaven of the will of God. We've answered this question fully now. We are going to go to the next question now. What is the meaning of life? What is our purpose? Where are we going? What are the spiritual dimensions? We are going to answer these questions now. Where are we historically? What is the meaning of life? Sorry, we have done this. What is the meaning of life? What is our purpose? Where are we going? What are the spiritual dimensions? Now, the spiritual dimensions I've already covered. Well, what was that? These are the spiritual dimensions. Hahut, Lahut, Jabarut, Malakut, and or in English, heaven of oneness, where the essence of God is, plane of divinity, one spiritual dimension, the all-highest dominion, one spiritual dimension, the kingdom of God, where our spirit goes immediately, that is dissociating itself from the body, it starts its journey in the kingdom of God, or the heaven of justice, or if you like, the heaven that in all the scriptures they say. Talk about. But notice here, one thing very important, notice here, that I deliberately, when I've drawn this graph here for you, I have not attached it to the body. Because from the Baha'i holy scriptures, the revelation of God, through the glory of God, Baha'u'llah, he reveals to us that the spirit and the soul of human being is not going inside the body. Because we said, what is the distinguishing features of the spiritual world is that there is no time, then there is no space. So, when we say enter, go into, come out, and all that, we are talking about physical universe. A spirit, there is no such a thing as time and space to go in and come out and all that. Therefore, what we say, now listen to this carefully, a new definition I'm giving you. At the time of the conception, the spirit of the human being, the soul of the human being, they start the association with the body. Association, not entering them. The soul and the spirit never enters the body to go out of it. And out and in is something to do with my physical universe. It's nothing to do with the spiritual universe. So we say this human spirit and the soul start their association. Now, if you want to understand what I mean by association, this is the example that Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha they give us. And that is, think about the sun, that shines. And then here you put a mirror in front of the sun. The sun, when it's shining, if you put the mirror against the rays of the sun, and then you look inside the mirror, you can see in the mirror the reflection of the rays of the sun. And even you can see the sun itself in the mirror. But it doesn't mean that the sun has come down and gone into the mirror. That's impossible. The sun is, when you put the mirror against the rays of the sun, you establish a relationship, an association. Not that sun has come down and gone into the mirror. It's associating because of the rays. It reflects the rays of the sun, and you can see the shape of the sun there if you look at it, and you can see the light of the sun apparently. So what we say, a spirit of the human being and the soul of human being, also they are associating with the body. Body is like a mirror that reflects the attributes and the will of the spirit and the soul. But at no time the soul and the spirit descends and comes and goes inside the body of the human being. No, it doesn't. It associates. So, if anything happens to the body, yes, it may upset the spirit, but in no way can interfere with the spirit. When somebody wrote to Baha'u'llah specifically that said, how is it that if the spirit is so powerful, but a slightest thing that happens to the body, person shows weakness and the lack of memory, etc., etc. Baha'u'llah says, just think about this relationship of the sun and the mirror. If suddenly clouds appear here, although the mirror is here and the sun is still there, but because of the intervention of the clouds, the full rays of the sun cannot shine in the mirror. So in the mirror you can only see a dull light. That doesn't mean that the sun is got something wrong with the sun. It's because body cannot reflect the sun properly under those conditions. Then I'm now going to go more fully to the purpose of life, the meaning of life. And before I do that, I'm going to find a passage from the writings of Baha'u'llah and read it for you first, before I explain it further. So I'm going to get the book now and find the passage for you and read it for you. I found the passages I wanted to read for you. And in your course notes, you will see that these passages are on page 38 and 39 of your course support notes. I better say this, that all those things that David read for you earlier on in the course, and a few minutes ago Mr. Arthur Kendall read for you, all those are in your course notes. All the prayers we read during the course, this is in your course notes. All the passages that I quote from are in your course notes. Even all the graphs that I have made, with the exception of those that I write with my own hand here, when you see it's printed, it's in your course notes. Now let's see about the meaning and purpose of life. The Creator, we said, sends this messenger, sends his manifestation from Logos, and then this manifestation can say to human beings, what is the purpose of creation? What is the meaning of life for that person? But listen to the language of revelation. Baha'u'llah claims in a tablet of that he revealed, called, I will read it for you later on, maybe passages out of it, called the Tablet of Ahmad, that nobody individually, nor if people get together collectively, all the best known linguists and people of literature, etc., they cannot reveal a single sentence like as he has revealed. He challenges, he says nobody can. He says if you can do it, try and do it. Listen the way he reveals for us the will and wish of God. Listen carefully. If you want, as I said, you can get your course notes and get page 39 and 38, and then you see where I'm reading from. You can look at it yourself. He says, O son of man, God is talking to the human being. Veiled in my immemorial being and in the ancient eternity of my essence, I knew my love for thee. Therefore, I created thee, have engraved on thee mine image, and revealed to thee my beauty. You see, he's talking like he's talking to his beloved. There is a love relationship between God and human beings. He said, I loved you. I created you because I loved you. And then I've engraved on thee mine image. You're the image of God. You're the manifestation of God. And revealed to thee my beauty. O son of man, I loved thy creation. Hence, I created thee. You see, we're going to it now, gradually. You're saying to God, why? Why did God create me? Why? He said, I loved thy creation. Therefore, I created thee. Wherefore, do thou love me, that I may name thy name and fill thy soul with the spirit of life. He said, I loved you, I created you. Now I want you to love me back, so that I can fill you with the spirit of life. So, the first meaning of life becomes clear now, that the creation of a human being was because of love. And God, in turn, wants the human being to love him. O son of being, love me, that I may love thee. If thou lovest me not, my love can in no wise reach thee. Know this, O servant. Very interesting. He says, listen, get the condition. He says, Love me that I may love thee. If thou lovest me not, if you don't love me, my love in no wise can reach thee. You see, obstacle comes. As soon as a human being turns away from God, that's it, the love of God cannot come, he's lost. Then he has to find another purpose for life, which whichever purpose they will set, it will end in disappointment. That wasn't the purpose for it. The main purpose is to turn and love the Creator. O Son of Being, thy paradise is my love. Thy heavenly home, reunion with me. Enter therein and tarry not. This is that which has been destined for thee in our kingdom above and our exalted dominion. This is what has been destined for you. Listen to the language and look at this diagram that we did. He says, this is that which has been destined for thee in our kingdom above and our exalted dominion. If you didn't know about these dimensions, you wouldn't know what is he talking about. What kingdom above? Dominion, does it mean? O Son of Man, if thou lovest me, turn away from thyself. And if thou seekest me, my pleasure, if thou seekest my pleasure, regard not thine own, that thou mayest die in me, and I may eternally live in thee. There is no peace for thee save by renouncing thyself and turning unto me. Now, I'm repeating this deliberately again. There is no peace for thee save by renouncing thyself and turning unto me. If you remember, a few minutes ago, we were talking about these kingdoms: mineral kingdom, vegetable kingdom, animal kingdom, human kingdom. We said in order for the atom to go to all the kingdoms, it has to sacrifice. Mineral has to sacrifice itself for vegetable. Vegetable to sacrifice itself for animal. Animal to sacrifice itself for the human being. Now that it's got to human being, God wants you to sacrifice yourself to go up there. Forget yourself. Sacrifice yourself. Now that's the second one. We found two meanings so far for life. One is that you are created because God loved you, and in return, He wants first of all, you love Him. And said, know this, O servant, know this. If you don't love me, you're lost. And then He says, in order to become united with me and have eternal life, I want to turn away from yourself. Forget yourself. Completely. Leave yourself in my hand. Sacrifice yourself to come up there. All right. We go a bit further. O Son of Bounty. Listen to this carefully. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to start explaining it. O Son of Bounty. We said, do you remember Son of Bounty? Everybody, a lot of people who don't know about the dimensions again. Remember the dimensions we talked about? Here. He said, "O son of bounty." What did we, I know it's not here, but I have told you already. We said the physical universe, another name for it is the heaven of bounty. This is heaven of bounty, this is heaven of justice. Here is your son of the bounty. Oh yes, human being that you are in the nasud, in the physical world. Out of wastes of nothingness, with the clay of my command, I made thee to appear, and have ordained for thy training every atom in existence and the essence of all created things. Wow. Did you understand what I read? He says, I have created every atom in existence, everything that there is, just for the sake of your training. So if we say, that's why I put on top of this page, what is the purpose of the physical universe? I don't know if Albert can focus on this piece of paper. What is the purpose of the physical universe? The whole purpose of the physical universe is for the training of man, a classroom and a toy for the human soul, the human spirit, to get training here. That's the third one. All right. So, if we draw the human being again here, we said the body of the human being is created in the physical universe. His soul and spirit have come from the heaven of the will of God. The whole physical universe, not only this planet Earth, the whole of the galaxies, everything that is in the physical universe, God has created for the sake of the training of this spirit and soul of the human being. Then he says, now I have created the whole physical universe. Every atom in existence, all the created things, mineral, vegetable, animal, the whole galaxies, everything that is in the physical universe, for the sake of your training. It's not training of the body, it's training of the soul and the spirit, isn't it? Because the reality of a human being is soul and the spirit of it. Otherwise, the body is of no worth, it's going to disintegrate. It doesn't need much education, because it's not going to last forever. But the spirit and soul that is going to last forever needs education. It needs training. And he says, I've made the whole of this physical universe like your toys. Now, then, this is what Buddha said. Don't become attached to this. Don't think that the main thing is this physical universe. To think about all the time about the material benefits of this world. He said that is foolish to do so. Why? Because Somebody has bought a baby a toy. You look at the toy, the baby looks at the toys and then breaks it down and throws it away. Now, the whole physical universe is just like a classroom and a toy for the human soul and spirit. It is a pity that you become attached to the toy, you become attached to the classroom. You are a higher being. You are a superior being. You don't get attached to the lower kingdom. That's why I didn't tell you the last session when I was giving this talk that, you see, when we talk about mineral kingdom, we said that is the lowest kingdom. When we talk about human kingdom, it's only the most superior being that is there at all, with the exception of the God and Logos, the manifestations of God. There is nothing higher than the human being. And then, think about it seriously, what I'm going to say the next. It is a very foolish thing for the most superior creature that God has created out of love to have become attached to the lowest creation of God, which is mineral. Have you seen some people are so attached to diamond? A human being to become attached to the stone, mineral, and then collect it, and say, oh, I've got a lot of gold, what about it? That's a piece of metal. Or that's a piece of, granite, or a piece of, a mineral thing. You don't become attached to gold. That's the lowest creation of God. You are the much highest one, the highest that there is. So, we have been created, and really, the real human being is that soul and the spirit of the human being. This soul of the human being is going to live forever. It has come to this physical dimension only for training, temporarily, for a very short period. Maybe you live 67 years or maybe 100 years. It doesn't make any difference. Your body is going to die sooner or later. That's a temporary thing. It's a vehicle for the soul, for the spirit. And the whole physical universe is just for your toys, your training, your classroom. You don't become attached to it. The only thing which is important for you is to know your Creator and what He wishes, and love Him and go for Him and ignore yourself. Do what He wants you. He is your beloved, and you just do everything for the sake of Him. Then everything will be all right. I'm going to stop here now, and then we'll continue in a little while. All right. Now, I am sure by now you can answer these questions yourselves. Let's look at this chart now. Where are we going? What do you think about this now? Isn't it obvious that we are going to the kingdom of God, which is next dimension, as soon as our spirit and the body dissociate themselves from each other? Body disintegrates, the spirit continues its journey in the kingdom of God. What are the spiritual dimensions? the kingdom of God, the all highest dominion, the plane of divinity, and the heaven of oneness, the absolute oneness. What is our purpose? To love God and turn away from ourselves. Now, this may be difficult for some people to understand what we mean. Let's explain this a little further. You see, we said that every human being, within the human being, you have all the other lower kingdoms. You have got the mineral, you have got the vegetable, you have got the animal, and then you have got the human. Now, think a bit seriously now, here, now. A human being, therefore, within him has got the animal spirit as well. It has got the vegetable spirit as well. It has got that cohesion and attraction of atomic structure within him as well. However, human being has got a soul which is not attached to him, it's associating with him, interacting with him, and wants to take him one level up to the kingdom of God. Now, because within the human being you have got still those animalistic tendencies, there is a friction always. There's always trouble. Your nature, one nature of man is animal, the other nature of man is spiritual. And they pull, these are like these forces, they pull the human being from each side. The spiritual side wants to attract him that way, animal side always wants to attract that way. When Baha'u'llah says in that passage, turn away from thyself, meaning turn away from your animalistic tendencies. What your animal desires dictate to you. And come and follow the spiritual tendencies. Be forgiving, be loving, be understanding, be compassionate, be self-sacrificing. But animalistic, it's self-centered. I want everything for myself. Everything me is ego. Ego pulls us for one side, God pulls us to the other side. The Spirit takes us to the other side. Turn away from those passions and animal instincts that attract you. That is the fight. The ultimate enemy of man. Now, I'm repeating this again. The ultimate, the greatest enemy of the human being, every individual human being, according to the Baha'i holy scriptures, the most, the most great enemy that a person has is his own self. There is nobody can damage a person more than the person himself. The greatest enemy is self. That's why the first thing in the Baha'i we learn is forget yourself. Turn to God. All right. Now, we want to go to the next page. I am repeating this so that it registers in your mind, in your soul, in your spirit, this concept. We said that a human being the soul, body, soul, the spirit, is in the physical universe. In physical universe. We said that within this physical universe you have got the mineral and vegetable and animal, and we read from the writings of Baha'u'llah, from God, that he says the most important thing about you is your soul and spirit. So really the most important thing of each one of you individually is your spirit. You are spiritual beings. Now, the whole of the physical universe is created for the sake of your training. Training what? Training your soul and spirit, because that's the one that's going to last forever. So, just answer me this question. The whole physical universe is your classroom. You are really a spiritual being, so you are the spirit. And this universe, the physical universe, is your classroom. What is missing in this classroom? Yes, it is the teacher. You have the classroom, the physical universe. You have the student, which is the human spirit and soul. What is missing now is the teacher to train you. You see, now, listen carefully to this next sentence I'm going to say. It is very arrogant and very selfish for a person to say that God has created me and has created this physical universe for me to live in. Now I know what I'm going to do myself. No, you don't know what you're going to do yourself. Not really. Not those things that they are going to really benefit you for eternity. It is exactly, Abdul Baha says, like if a person starts building a lovely house and then gardens, huge gardens there, acres and acres of gardens, and say, well, these gardens don't need a gardener. Well, everything goes to pieces, it becomes wild. Disorderly is no good. You can't enjoy such a garden without the garden. A human being without divine guidance, without manifestations of God, without the Logos, without the revelation of God, will not know anything, will not know the purpose of life, will now have no standards to follow, and there is no aim and goal for it. Therefore, if he doesn't, then he will follow his animal instincts, he becomes a brute. He becomes a mass murderer or child abuser, or thinks day and night about his shares in the stock exchange, and about his position and all, and about sex, and about alcohol, and about drugs, and about his pleasures and all that, and we lose the joy of life, the purpose of life. And as we said earlier, from my experience of working with Samaritans, it shows that anybody who follows their own animal instincts and set any goal beside the goals that God gives him, will end up in disappointment. You love your wife, your wife is going to die. He dies, has an accident and dies. And then you start crying and saying, how can I live without money? That wasn't the purpose of life. I had a lot of money, I lost it. I want to kill myself. That wasn't the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to know the Creator, to know God, to know what He wants for you, and in return to love Him, worship Him, and do what He says. Let me read here from the first page of the most holy book. The most holy book. Yesterday I introduced to you this most holy book, the Kitab Aqdas. Let me, I've got a copy of it. Probably the camera can take better. You see, that's much fainter, that one. This is much more clearer. Is it? This is the most holy book for the whole mankind from now until approximately 1,000 years. I'm going to read for the first page of it, just the first paragraph of it for you. The first page, the first paragraph. Yeah. This was introduction. Now we start the most holy book. This in the first paragraph, what does it say? In the name of Him who is the supreme ruler over all that has been and all that is to be, all the past and the future. Now listen to the first paragraph. The first duty prescribed by God for His servants is the recognition of Him who is the dayspring of His revelation and the fountainhead of His laws. Who's that? That's Logos. That's manifestation of God. That's the prophet of God. That is the messenger of God. So he says, God says the first duty of a person is to recognize the messenger of God for his age. And then he says, look how he says, what importance he gives that. The first duty of prescribed by God for His servants is the recognition of Him who is the dayspring of His revelation and the fountain of His laws, who represents the Godhead in both the kingdom of His cause and the world of creation. It means that the manifestation of God is in the physical universe and all the spiritual words of God. He is the Godhead. He is the through whom we can recognize the will of God. whoso achieves this duty, means whoever has recognized the manifestation of God, the prophet of God, the Spirit of God for that age, has attained unto all good. And whoso is deprived thereof has gone astray, though he be the author of every righteous deed. Can you see in this first paragraph, Baha'u'llah throws all those theories and ideas of humanists out. The humanists say, well, I know I've got sense, I know I've got common sense, I know how should I behave and not do. I don't need somebody else to instruct me. Baha'u'llah goes even further. He says, if a person does everything that is good and proper in the whole world, is not acceptable unless he recognizes the messenger of God for his age. Doing good is not bad, but you have to do it for the sake of God and under the guidance of his manifestations. It behoves everyone who reaches this most sublime station. Sublime station becomes a believer in the manifestation of God. This summit of transcendent glory, to observe every ordinance of him who is the desire of the world. Is it desire of the world? Who is the desire of the world? The manifestation of God who represents God. Meaning the desired one is ultimately is God. These twin duties, twin duties now. Two duties a human being has. Number one, to recognize the manifestation of God, the prophet of God for that age. And the second one, to obey his laws and his teachings. These twin duties are inseparable. Means you cannot say, all right, no, I believe now Jesus Christ is manifestation of God. Our Lord Moses was manifestation of God. Our Lord Muhammad is manifestation of God. Our Lord Baha'u'llah now in this age is the manifestation of God for the whole humanity. I know, I recognize him. I accept him, I believe in him. But now I'm going to do what I like to do. No, you can't. It's not separable. Means you have to recognize the manifestation of God and then do exactly what he says, not the way you want to do things. Or you cannot say, well, everything that Baha'u'llah says is very nice, it makes sense. But I am not very attached to him. I like his teachings. No, that's no good either. You must first believe in him because he represents God on earth, and also then obey his commandments. Let me give you an example, maybe a little exaggeration on my part, but nevertheless it's an example. I want to convey a concept. You see, if the manifestation of God comes and I recognize him to be from God because of his revelation, the Word of God and the Book of God, and then in middle of it, in the law number 25, he says, well, now you must get up and go and chop everybody's head off. That's what I'm saying, exaggeration. Now, I have recognized him, I believe in him, he has said that, and I'm going to do it. I'm not going to say, oh well, that doesn't make sense. What I'm, in another way, I want to say, something which is good, it's only good because the manifestation of God has said, not the other way around. Well, because it is a nice thing in my opinion, then it's good. No. Merely because your judgment and your common sense dictates to you something doesn't mean that that is necessarily good. You have to see what he says and do what he says in the way that he says it to do. That's why we are going to get a word unity, because then you have to have one focus. Not everybody does everything according to their wish and according to their intelligence and according to their understanding. No, because there is a set of standards here. And everybody, whether in China or Russia or America or Europe or Africa, they are going to obey exactly the same thing. This same lecture that I am giving during this course and these concepts that I am saying it in here for you, if you go to a village in Peru and there is a Baha'i talks about this, will say exactly the same thing. Otherwise, it's not going to be unity, is it? Because everything has to be referred to the Book of God, to the Holy Book of God for today. So, I was trying to convey to you this concept that man, as far as his body is concerned, is in the physical universe. His soul and his spirit is a gift from the heaven of God that has come to this physical universe for only one reason: to be trained, but not to be trained in the way that he or she likes it, in the way that the messenger of God, the manifestation of God, the prophet of God for that age tells him to do, to be trained. So the whole universe, physical universe, is the training ground for the human soul, for human spirit. And in this classroom, we need teachers. And these teachers do not come accidentally here. It is a pre-arranged event which I'm going to discuss soon, and this will lead us naturally to the concept of the covenant of God, which I'm going to talk to you in a little short while. All right, dear friends, I hope you enjoyed this religious song that Christian sang for you. And welcome to the next session of the course, The Meaning of Life. In the last session, before we finished, I mentioned to you from our syllabus that we have done the introduction to the course, we have done the part 1, awakening, we have reached part 2, developing our capacities. And then I said that in this session, we are going to start the concept of the covenant and progressive revelation and how to be on the right course. Now, again, if you remember, in the last session I said that we human beings are in the physical universe. And the most important feature of a human being is its soul and spirit. And then we read from the Holy Scripture that the Almighty God tells us that He has created the whole physical universe and every atom in it, and the mineral and the vegetable and the animal and all the galaxies for the sake of the education and training of the human being, or in another words, the human soul and spirit, because that's the one that is going to live eternally. Then we said, if the soul is then in this classroom, the student, and the physical universe is our classroom, there was something missing, and that is a teacher. And we said that our Creator is not going to leave us alone to fathom everything ourselves, because we can't. Therefore, we need a teacher to train us progressively. And this teaching of God and the training is going to continue forever and ever. And it has been there from the beginning of the beginning, and it's going to go to the end that has no end. That's why we call it progressive. Then, if you remember also, when we were talking about where are we historically, I went through this graph with you. I started from the prophetic or Adamic cycle. Prophetic or Adamic cycle. And then I said, this cycle, we have passed by it now. It started with the Adam, who brought the teachings of God and trained his people. Noah did the same thing. Krishna did the same thing. Abraham did the same thing. Moses did the same thing. Zoroaster did the same thing. Buddha did the same thing. Jesus Christ did the same thing. Muhammad did the same thing. Guru Nanak did the same thing. Until the whole cycle came to an end with the appearance of the Bab, in English means the gate, in 1844, which through this gate we found Baha'u'llah, the glory of God, in 1853, who ushered in a new cycle of fulfillment, which is going to last for 500,000 years. All that has happened, it hasn't been just an accident. It is, excuse me, it is a plan of God. God always sends His prophets, His messengers, His manifestations to teach mankind in every age, in approximately in average, every 1,000 years. I am going now to get from my course notes a page for you, which it is in your own course notes. And in this course notes, I have prepared for you on page 11, if you will focus here, the tree of life. This has been done by the same person who produced the reason for the rise and fall of civilizations, the scroll that I showed and went through it the other time. And this will go through from Adam, ends up with the guardian of the Baha'i faith, Shoghi Effendi, and it gives you the 3 wives of Abraham and all the prophets that came from his descendants, and how all of them relate to each other. So if you look at your chart that I've prepared for you on page 11 in your home course notes, it is very detailed, so I cannot go through it one by one just now, but it will give you the tree of all the lives of the prophets and who they were and which section of the world, which part of the world they operated, and their ministry was in that part and spread to other parts of the world. Now, this process is never going to stop, because if the process stops, the progress, the spiritual progress of the humankind will stop. Therefore, we have to examine how does that occur? How does it happen, this process? In details. You see, we are going to start now with the covenant of God and study it properly. I have put number 1, the nature of the eternal covenant. We want to discuss this first statement now. But before I start that, I'm going to go to that table here, and Mr. Albert Smith, with his own beautiful handwriting, has written this for us, and this is going to remain where it is for the rest of the course, so that we refer to it regularly. And then just now I'm going to discuss this first part, the nature of the eternal covenant. What does it mean? Okay? Let's define the covenant. Covenant means a contract. Covenant means an agreement. An agreement. What is this agreement? In every contract or agreement, you have two parts. In this covenant of God, you have got two parts as well. You have the Creator, the Almighty God, and you have mankind, human beings. Now, if we study all the holy scriptures of all the religions of the world, we will see the same concept. Which means, what is that concept? What is that agreement? What's that contract? What's that covenant? Means that God has said that regularly I will send you manifestations of God, the prophets of God, the messengers of God. These divine educators are going to train you so that you progress and develop spiritually to be ready for the eternal life. So God will send, He undertakes to send the manifestation of God for our training, and we, for our part, have to obey their instructions and develop spiritually. Then He says, if you do this, my bounties will envelop you. My confirmations will come to you. I will give you a good eternal life, and I will let you progress spiritually. That is what is the covenant. And this is called eternal covenant. Why? Because it is going to be there forever and ever and ever. This has been so from the beginning, and it is going to remain so for eternity. Now, I want just to read for you now a little passage from the Holy Bible to see where I'm getting everything from. For those people who have studied the Old Testament and New Testament, this is not something new. But this will interest those people who haven't read it really properly. You see, if we look at, this is, by the way, this is the St. James's Holy Bible, my own copy. I've got here the Holy Bible, new version of it, the New English version, but I love this one. And this, if you open this and you look at it, I am going to refer to Deuteronomy chapter 18. And then I'm going to read from the verse number 17. So Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 17. What does it say here? And the Lord said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken. Number 18, verse 18. I will raise them up a prophet. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee. Like unto who? Like Moses. And will put my words in his mouth. So first he says, they have said very well, that's quite right. I will send to them a prophet, but then he gives signs from their brethren. Means another human being. There is not going to be somebody, an angel or not. Another human being. And then he says, I will put my word in his mouth. Mean that he is not going to be a philosopher. He is not going to be a university lecturer. He is going to be an ordinary human being, but God will put his mouth in, put his word into his mouth. And he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. Meaning the prophet is not going to talk to them whatever he likes. He is going to command to them whatever the Lord wants. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. So you're going to be judged. Whatever that prophet is going to say, which is not his, but it is the word of God, you're required to respond to it, obey it. But then God says, but the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which means if he says something I haven't told him, it's presume. He says his own word instead of Lord's word, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die. Meaning, nothing will come out of it. It will have no influence. And if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which the Lord has not spoken? That's a profound statement, dear friends. Profound statement. He said, God is telling you, he said, maybe you ask me now, well, a lot of people may come and say that they are prophets and they are revealing the will of the Lord. How do we know if they are prophets of God? Then he says in verse 22, when a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord not spoken, but the prophet has spoken. But the prophet has spoken it presumptuously. Thou shalt not be afraid of him. He says, how do you know a prophet? He will send a prophet. He will send a prophet as a human being, like one of your brethren. He will put his own word into his mouth. And if you say, how do we know that is the word of the God, the Almighty? You know, you have a very easy criteria to examine it. If what he says happens, then you say it's God has spoken it. If it doesn't happen, that means that it was a false prophet. Okay? Thank you. Now, dear friends, you heard me. Now, right from the Holy Scripture, God has promised that He will raise prophets. He will send prophets. He will give them the authority to speak on His behalf. And whatever they say, it will happen. Whatever they wish, it will happen. If it doesn't happen, that wasn't the word of God. Now, when Abdul Baha, the master, son of Baha'u'llah, the glory of God, that was his ministry, was from 1892 until 1921. During his ministry, I told you when I was introducing the books that he visited Europe. When he was in Budapest, on the April 12, 1913, he gave a talk to Theosophical Society. Abdul Baha gave a talk at the Theosophical Society in Budapest, if you know exact date, 12th of April, 1913. They asked him again, if you read the newspapers of the Europe in that time, you realize that all over the countries that he visited in Europe, there were huge articles with his photograph that they said, Abdul Baha is visiting the West. So they asked him, many people, theologians, divines, leaders of religion, leaders of the countries, the heads of the universities, scientists, all they went to see him and asked him questions. In the Theosophical Society in Budapest, they asked him again, how do we recognize the manifestation of God, the Master? And now I want you to look carefully at this graph and focus on it. And in a minute then I will start reading and explaining different sections of this talk. Please look at this carefully now. Now, dear friends, I hope you have looked at it properly. We are going to start from the beginning. And we are saying, we are going to answer this question, not from me, but from the Master, from Abdul Baha. They asked him how to recognize the great Master, how to recognize the manifestation of God, how to recognize the Prophet of God, how do we know he is from God? Listen what he said. And I want you to follow me, sir, that, and I'm going to read it. Sentence by sentence. as to the coming of the great master. His appearance is dependent upon the realization of certain conditions. Investigate the reality, and in whomsoever these conditions are fulfilled, know ye of a certainty that he is the great master. Don't follow anybody blindly. You just examine it, investigate. First, the great master will be the educator of the world of humanity. However, I want just here, when we say educator of the world of humanity, clarify one point very quickly, but later I'm going to go into it in detail. When the Holy Spirit works through the vehicle, the master, the manifestation of God, who is a human being. When the manifestation of God, this prophet of God comes, he will release a great energy. He will release a great knowledge in the world, not merely through what he says and writes and through his followers, but that energy, that knowledge will be transmitted to all human beings and will motivate them, will make their understanding to grow. So it isn't merely spiritual teachings of the prophet that he gives himself directly to humanity, but indirectly, through the power of the Holy Spirit, he motivates, he stimulates the minds of human beings to develop art, to develop technology, to develop a more advanced civilization. Second, his teachings must be universal and confer illumination upon mankind. Meaning, when a prophet of God comes, it doesn't come merely for a few people around him in that village or town or city. He comes for the whole of humanity. So his teachings will be good enough for the whole of human race. Third, his knowledge must be innate and spontaneous, and not acquired knowledge. Now, dear friends, please listen, I'm going to read this again. His knowledge must be innate and spontaneous, and not acquired knowledge. Meaning, no prophet of God has come and then in the childhood has gone to this school, and then when he got a bit older to a college, and then to university, and then he got PhD, and then he became a professor, or he became a philosopher, and then start to teach. No, he's just from beginning has got the knowledge that comes to him through the power of God, through the power of Holy Spirit. He knows whatever has been, whatever will be, and whatever is going to happen, he has got the knowledge within him. Now, somebody may ask, where do you say this from? I give you, you are here, most of you are from Christian background. We are going to examine now the New Testament. In New Testament, you find in the Gospels, especially the account of the life of Jesus Christ our Lord and what he taught and how he lived, however briefly. One time, if you read, the parents of Jesus Christ, Joseph and Mary, took him to Jerusalem when he was 12 years old. What happened there? They went round to Jerusalem. They wanted to go back now home. They saw Jesus is missing. They searched for him. They found him in the synagogue. Here he is having theological discussion with the rabbis there. They turned to Jesus and they said, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I'm after my Father's business." If Jesus Christ didn't have the knowledge of everything from the beginning, that is before the baptism, and when they say that Holy Spirit descended on him like a dove. That's before that, isn't it? So it shows that Jesus Christ from the beginning had this innate knowledge, God-given knowledge. He didn't need to go anywhere and learn. Fourth, he must answer the questions of all the sages, solve all the difficult problems of humanity, and be able to withstand all the persecutions and sufferings heaped upon him. Now, this second part of this is very interesting for you to understand. He says, and be able to withstand all the persecutions and sufferings. So, by implication, Abdul Baha, the master, says that it is inevitable that when a manifestation of God comes, has to be persecuted, and it has not suffered. Why? Because he comes with a completely new ideas. He comes with new teachings of God. It is way beyond the understanding of the people of his time at that given moment. You see, we said all the prophets of God are coming from God in different stages of development of the humanity. All of them are different chapters in the same book of God. But each one takes humanity one stage higher. Naturally, if you leave grade 5, you go to grade 6, you have to be given more knowledge. When you finish school, you go to college, you're going to acquire more knowledge. At the beginning, yes, your mind is ready for it, but you don't have that understanding and knowledge. So, when the new manifestation of God comes, he is teaching mankind collectively new truth, new knowledge, to take him one step higher. And because of his teaching being higher and naturally is difficult for those people to digest, or because his teachings of such value that is going to undermine the authority of the clergy and the divines and the theologians and the leaders of religions and the leaders of mankind and the governments of that age, naturally they are going to oppose him. Because when the new manifestation of God comes, it's the day of resurrection, a day of judgment, the day of judgment for the followers of the previous manifestation. And they have used to a certain customs, they've used to a certain way of living that is very difficult for them to give up and follow the path of God. So they are going to object, to reject, to persecute, and heap sufferings upon the manifestation of God and his early believers. Fifth, he must be a joy bringer and a herald of the kingdom of happiness. That's what I said in the last few sessions. I said, as soon as you look at somebody who has got it, who's spiritually regenerated, who's become spiritualized, then all the time that person should be happy. Because he knows the meaning of life. She knows the meaning of life. He or she has found contentment, has found solution to all the problems, has got a goal. Okay. 6, his knowledge must be infinite and his wisdom all comprehensive. Meaning, he can't have a limited knowledge. If he is going to be able to answer all the questions and solve all the problems, whether material or spiritual. 7th, the penetration of his word and the potency of his influence must be so great as to humble even his worst enemies. Eighth, sorrows and tribulations must not vex him. His courage and conviction must be godlike. Day by day, he must become firmer and more zealous. 9, he must be the establisher of universal civilization, the unifier of religions, the standard bearer of universal peace, and the embodiment of all the highest and noblest virtues of the world of humanity. And then the master concluded his answer by these words: whenever you find these conditions realized in a human temple, turn to him for guidance and illumination. So we must investigate. You see, if this prophet of God that has come, is he fulfilling these or not? Is his knowledge innate or not? Is his teaching sufficient for everybody, answers the questions and gives solution to all the problems or not? And does it make the people who follow him happy people or not? If they really follow him. Now, before I go any further, I want to draw a graph for you quickly. You see, we talked about the God, we talked about Logos, we talked about humanity. We said it's from the word of Logos, from the word of revelation, from where God reveals His will, we are going to get manifestations and prophets for humanity in average every 1,000 years. And then we said, for example, we had a manifestation of God, Krishna. After that, Buddha came. Now, it wasn't as easy as that. If you are a bit aware of this fact, historically, the people who had faith in Krishna and believed in him, when our Lord Buddha came, they didn't immediately accept him and follow him. He had to go through a lot of hassle, a lot of suffering. In fact, if you have studied at all Buddhism a little bit, in the land of his birth in India, eventually they rejected him. The Buddhist faith did not really grow in India. It really grew, to begin with, in China. And then, of course, went to Japan. That's what I mean, the people's resistance. When, for example, Moses came, which was after Abraham. And let's go even to Abraham. You read the account of the life of Abraham in the Old Testament. Did the people believe him? No, of course they didn't believe him. They rejected him. Not only they rejected him, they threw him out of the town. They sent him to exile. It took a long time. Now it's very easy. You go to Israel, every Jewish person says, oh yes, Abraham is the father of the Jews. But at the beginning, it wasn't so. A lot of suffering, a lot of trouble. Then after Abraham comes Moses. Did the Jewish people, forget about Pharaoh and the people of Egypt. Just think about the Jews themselves. Did they follow him and accept him without trouble? No, of course not. You remember when he went to bring the tablets of God, the 10 Commandments? What happened? They immediately reverted to idolatry, you know, to paganism again. And they made the golden calf and started worshipping the golden calf. So you say, why is it that if these signs was given in Old Testament, that God is going to send prophets, he's going to send teacher, he's going to send educator, he's going to send messenger, prophet to mankind? Why is it that they rejected him? Why did they reject Abraham? Why did they reject Moses? And then the Jewish people, who was Jesus Christ? Jesus Christ our Lord, he himself was a manifestation of God. Jesus Christ our Lord was the manifestation of God, right? The Godhead, the divine on earth. But did the Jews accept him? No, of course not. They rejected him. And still after 2,000 years, they don't accept him. But we as human beings, we accept and we know now that Krishna was from God, Buddha was from God, Moses was from God, Christ was from God. But it is easy to say now. It wasn't easy at that time. Therefore, we can say again, when Zoroaster came, do you think everybody immediately accepted him? Of course not. There was a lot of suffering, there was a lot of bloodshed and trouble until the people accepted him, and the whole Persian Empire was benefited from the revelations of the Zoroaster. It took time. Therefore, now that, if you please focus it here now. Now that Baha'u'llah the Baha'u'llah, the glorious God of God, has appeared, which fulfills all the prophecies of Christianity, Judaism, Hindus, Buddhists, Zoroastrians, and of course Islam. It is not so easy, mankind doesn't find it so easy to accept him. Although we are in the year 156 of the Baha'i era, meaning it is only 156 years since the foundation of the Baha'i faith and the message of God coming through Baha'u'llah. I mean, I forgot mention here, Islam. When Muhammad came and he wanted to teach the word of God to the Arabs there, was it as easy as that? First of all, for 2 years, he couldn't even talk about it to anybody publicly. And then after 2 years that he declared it publicly, that he is the prophet of the God and has brought the teachings of God for humanity, what happens? For 13 years, they reject him, they break his holy, teeth. And eventually, in the middle of the night, he has to run away from Mecca. Although he was from Mecca to begin with, nobody eventually the whole Meccan people from Mecca didn't believe in him. And they were persecuting all the influential people, all those learned people of his time. So he goes to a little town in north of Mecca, and in Yathrib, which now is called Medina. Medina means the city. It used to be city of prophet. Now they have shortened it, they've made it city. It was there that gradually people gathered around him and Islam started properly. So it wasn't so easy. And then now when we look at the coming of Baha'u'llah, who fulfills all the prophecies of Muhammad, of Christ, of Zoroaster, of Buddha, of Krishna, of Moses, of Abraham, of all the prophets before him, his faith is progressing in a slow pace, but of course at the moment is in every country in the world. But even if we take the latest figures from the Encyclopedia Britannica, there are not more than 6,400,000 Baha'is in the world. But in these 156 years, at least over 20,000 believers in the Bab and Baha'u'llah have been killed, martyred. And many more imprisoned, suffered persecution, and I'm going to give you later the details of it. Even the Bab himself was shot to death by 750 riflemen with the order of the Persian government. And Baha'u'llah himself was captured and with the order of Persian government, and the Turkish government of the time was kept under the house arrest, was exiled from town to town until they eventually put him in the prison of Akka in Palestine, which is now in Israel. And until his dying day, he was not free to move wherever he wanted. Two supreme powers of the time, Persians and Turks, kept him captive. When Jesus Christ our Lord returned in the glory of the Father, when Krishna returned, when prophecies of Muhammad was fulfilled and the Messiah came. The prophecies of Jewish faith was fulfilled and Messiah came. The prophecies of Zoroastrian faith was fulfilled and Shah Bahram, which is Baha'u'llah again, appeared. Now that I've told you this, I want you to literally ponder on this for a little while until Now I hope you have looked at this carefully now and pondered a bit. Now I'm going to go and look at another chart that I've prepared for you. And we want to say now, this is, we say every time a new manifestation of God comes to the humanity, whether those who are directly associating with him or not associating with him, then hear about him, at the very beginning, they don't pay attention. They don't obey, they don't follow. It takes some time. There's going to be a lot of suffering, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of trouble, until they accept the new manifestation of God. Why? We want to say, why is it happening? Why is it that the Jews, after Moses, our Lord, hesitated and did not accept our Lord Jesus Christ, and all these troubles occurred? What is it that when Muhammad came, for at least 13 years, he was suffering and suffering and suffering, that at one time he turned to God and he said, what should I do now? And God, you know what I mean, revealed to him. He says, you have nothing, you can't do nothing. Either you have to find a ladder and flee to the heaven, or dig a hole and go down a well. Otherwise, they are not going to leave you alone. Why is it that after Krishna, our Lord, they didn't accept Buddha, our Lord? We want to examine all these problems, because in each religion, they stick with their own book, with their own manifestation and prophet of God, and they are not ready to move to the next stage, and they cause trouble. They break the covenant of God. As soon as Jesus came and Jews didn't move on and accept him, lots of problems happened. Lots of suffering happened. Because Jews, even up to today, they said, even if a Messiah comes and the promised one comes, he has to only advocate the 10 Commandments of Moses and the way of life that the Jewish people have chosen to adopt for themselves, and the new manifestation also has to follow the same thing. No, he was not going to follow the same thing. He's come to change things. When Muhammad came, Jews and the Christians didn't follow him. There was a lot of problem. There was a lot of bloodshed, a lot of trouble. Because Christians, they thought, yes, they have got the ultimate truth now. Although, if we look at the Holy Bible, the New Testament, we see so many references that Jesus, our Lord, had given to his followers that, no, he's going to come back again. His spirit going to come back with him. The spirit of truth is going to come back again. He's going to come back as with the glory of the Father. And now that the Bab and the Baha'u'llah have come, the leaders of religion and the governments of the nations resisting it, and they don't want to follow the teachings of God so easily. That's why you get trouble in the world. Because Baha'u'llah emphatically says, unless and until mankind turn to the revelation of God for today, they will not be able to find solution neither to their individual problems nor to the problems of the nations and the whole world, whole globe. There is not going to be ever a global peace and harmony and progress unless and until mankind turn to the manifestation of God for this age, which has got the solution to the problems of the society in this age. Those teachings of God that was given to our Lord Krishna or Moses or Jesus or Muhammad or Zoroaster, although they were perfect and good for their time, they are not good and ultimate solution to the problems of this age. Now we want to see why do the people on earth reject the new prophet? Let's look at this graph now. This is what I've written here now. The ways preventing people from recognizing the divine spirit appearing in a new human temple. That means when a new prophet of God, the new manifestation of God comes, what is this that veils them, prevents them? Veil means something that prevents you to see me. So the same way that when manifestation of God comes, there is some obstacles, there are some veils, some problem that prevents people from turning to the manifestations of God. I've gone through a lot of research to find all the reasons for when a new manifestations of God comes and people reject it, what are they? And I've summarized all these after 5 years, and I've made it into this summary. So just don't think that this is just one page. It has taken ages to prepare all that. These are the reasons for people rejecting a message of God when it appears again. What are those? Number one, veil of self and ego. That is the first one. We said the worst enemy of a human being is themselves. Herself and himself. Because people say, well, I know what to do. No, you don't know what to do. Neither you know individually what to do, nor the society as a whole would know what to do, what direction to go. You have to turn to the prophet of God, to the manifestation of God. The self is the most problematic barrier, veil. Get rid of it, you will understand the truth. Veil of knowledge. Now, this is a very important concept. I have to talk a few minutes about it for you. Why does knowledge prevent you to understand and accept the manifestation of God? I'm going to read the first passage, the first paragraph that Baha'u'llah revealed in his one of his most important works that revealed for humanity, that is the Kitab-e-Iqan, or in English, the Book of Certitude. Let's see what he says at the first page of that. I'm getting it for you now. This is the Kitab-e-Iqan, the Book of Certitude. I'm going to read the first paragraph of this book. Listen carefully. No man shall attain the shores of the ocean of true understanding, except he be detached from all that is in heaven and on earth. First of all, if you want to understand the truth, you have to be detached from all that is on earth and heaven. Sanctify your souls, O people, O ye people of the world, that happily ye may attain that station which God has destined for you, and enter thus the tabernacle, which, according to the dispensation of providence, has been raised in the firmament of the Baha'i. The essence of these words is this: they that tread the path of faith, they that thirst for the wine of certitude, must cleanse themselves of all that is earthly, their ears from idle talk, their minds from vain imaginings, their hearts from worldly affections, their eyes from that which perishes. They should put their trust in God, and holding fast unto Him, follow in His ways. Then will they be made worthy of the effulgent glories of the Son of divine knowledge and understanding, and become the recipient of a grace that is infinite and unseen. Inasmuch as man can never hope to attain unto the knowledge of the all-glorious, can never quaff from the stream of divine knowledge and wisdom, and can never enter the abode of immortality, nor partake of the cup of divine nearness and favor, unless and until he ceases to regard the words and deeds of mortal men as a standard for the true understanding and recognition of God and His prophets. Simply means when you face the manifestation of God, you have come to a superior being. You are talking to a person from Logos, not from the world of humanity anymore. Therefore, with your human knowledge, with your human understanding, with your college and university degree, you cannot judge the manifestation of God. Because He is the one that brings us the standard of the judgment. His talks, His revelation is the standard itself. Third, what is another problem that prevents people from recognizing manifestation of God? Veil of lack of proper understanding of the teachings of the previous divine messengers. What does that mean? Means that to begin with, a Jew that rejects Jesus, they really haven't understood their own teachings. I give you an example so that you understand this point. You remember when Jesus Christ was teaching the people of His time, He did two things. One of them was He abrogated the law of divorce. In the Jewish faith, there was a law that you could divorce your wife. But in Christianity, Jesus Christ our Lord abrogated that. You couldn't divorce your wife. In Jewish faith, it's very important to celebrate the Sabbath. And that has become such a strong point there in their daily life. But Jesus Christ abrogated that. Didn't think that the Sabbath is such an important thing. So the learned Jews, they came to him and said, if you are a prophet of God, why are you abrogating the teachings and the commandments and the laws of Moses? Do you remember what did he answer? What did he say? He said, are you talking about Moses, my brother? If you had believed in Moses, you would have believed in me. First of all, he says he's from the same family as Moses, his brother. Well, of course we know that he came about 1,500 years after Moses. So he didn't mean really that kind of brotherhood. He meant the general brotherhood that exists between all the manifestation of God, that they come from Logos. They are from the same category. They are same family. Then he is mentioning this veil of lack of proper understanding of the teachings of the previous divine messengers. He says, if you understood really Moses, you would have understood me. You would have accepted me. It is because you really don't understand the teachings of Moses and what he told me in the Old Testament. Another problem is, number 4, veil of misunderstanding of prophecies and signs. You see, it's very interesting. Sometimes you see suddenly a couple of people knock at my door and say, hello, we have come to give you the good news about Jesus Christ and the New Testament. I usually ask them, how would they convince a Jewish person that Jesus Christ was the divine messenger, was the manifestation of God on earth? Because if they could convince them, then they would become Christians all, wouldn't they? How is it that they don't accept? Although if they read the Daniel and Isaiah's book in Old Testament, they can clearly see the prophecies of Old Testament about the coming of Jesus Christ and the exact date that he should come. But all the religions, they build up certain signs for themselves, which they have nothing to do with their holy scriptures, and they either say that our religion is the final one, or they say, no, those prophecies that our religion has said has not been fulfilled. That's why Hindus are there still waiting for their promised one, Buddha. Jewish people are still waiting for Messiah, which was Jesus Christ. Hindus and Buddhists are still waiting for Zoroaster. And all of them are still waiting for their promised one, although Muhammad came and fulfilled their prophecies. And now Bab and Baha'u'llah have come from 1844. The latter days have come. The judgment of God, the day of judgment has come, the final days have come, This resurrection has happened. The new religion of God has come to continue the same religion and advance the people of the earth, and they are still sticking to their old books of God, and they don't want to progress to the new one. But honestly and truly, you ask yourselves and ask your family and friends from whichever religion they are. Ask them, have they read and understood their own holy book properly and read it and all the prophecies regarding the coming of the next manifestation of God? You will be lucky if 1 in 100 says, yes, I have studied my own holy book properly, I'm studying it every day, and I know about the signs of the coming of the new manifestation. Number 5, veil of lack of spiritual insight. This is another problem. Veil of lack of understanding the reality of the manifestation of the age. Veil of lack of the necessary knowledge. Number 8, veil of attachment to the world, position, name, and reputation, wealth, and materialistic views. Can you imagine Nietzsche, one of the great, supposed to be the philosopher of his time in Europe? He writes, God is dead. A new thoughts have come to mankind. Existentialism. Existentialism, yes? They say, well, the time that we needed to look for God and the guidance of religion is gone now. And then they put forward these foolish theories that now you are on its own, you are on your own. You have to find meaning for life. That's what they teach in universities and colleges here, everywhere in the world. God is dead, you are on our own, you have no real meaning and purpose, you have to find your meaning for yourself. You see, how low can you get? Or some people, they think, if I follow the new religion of God, I'm going to lose my reputation. They may confiscate my business. What's going to happen to my house? What's going to happen to my money? What's going to happen to my family? Or this, that. I don't. Leave it. Leave me alone now. Don't tell me anymore. Number 9, veil of following their clergy blindly. This is very interesting. If you are a Jew, you want to go and believe in Christianity, you can't go back to synagogue and ask the rabbi to explain to you whether Jesus is from God or not. If you are a Hindu, you can't go to the temple and ask the teacher at the temple of Hindu temple to tell you if Buddha is from God or not. If they could understand that, they would have followed Buddha themselves. There's something wrong there. You can't go to the church now and ask if Muhammad is the prophet of God or not, after 1,400 years. It's full of prejudice. lack of understanding. Now they know if they are going to accept Muhammad as a prophet of God, they have to relinquish their post as a clergy, and their income is from there. These are the issues we have to examine, dear friends. Leaders of religion hinder people for various reasons. What are those reasons? Loss of leadership. They know they are going to lose their leadership. They don't want to follow the new manifestation. Their own lack of knowledge. Oh, they haven't understood. They haven't understood their own book properly, and they haven't studied the new books, the holy books of the new manifestation. Their own limited understanding. The new teacher appears in a human body, eats, drinks, and sleeps, but this becomes a veil because people like mystery more than the reality. You see, in your imagination, you build a picture of God and manifestation. Oh yeah, I believe in Krishna and Brahma, the God, the creator. You build, because it's become full of mystery now. You become attached to this. You forget that at that time that Krishna himself was on earth, he was just a human being. It is his knowledge and the revelation that comes from God that attracts the people. Otherwise, his body is as just a human being, he's going to die. So, because then when the new manifestation comes, just is like a human being, like others, and in most cases is a very poor man, it's very difficult for all the clergy and the divines and the government officials and all that to go and accept him and obey him. The new teacher abrogates past laws and traditions and brings new laws that will enforce drastic changes. These are the divine tests which not many pass. All these are tests. If you attach to yourself, it's a test. You have failed now, the test. If you become attached to your knowledge, oh, I think this way. Who are you to think that way? Who am I to think that way? Or, oh, my bishop said that, or my archbishop said that, or my pope said that, or the cardinal said that, or this said that, or that said that. That is not the criteria you have to go by. You have to examine why really did you believe in Krishna, in Buddha, in Moses, in Abraham, in Jesus, in Muhammad. Why did you really to begin with go and follow that? Then it will become clear to you how you should obey and how you should investigate and find the new manifestation of God. You have to pass these tests. You have to be sincere, like a scientist that wants to investigate and find something new. You have to examine and investigate without prejudice, with absolute sincerity, until God will open your eyes. I'm going to end this session, and I'm going to come back to you in a moment. All right, dear friends, now you have listened to to me, and what I said about these problems that prevents people from recognizing the new teacher, the new manifestation of God coming from Logos. Now, we're going to go back to what we started from, the covenant of God. And now, I hope by now I have explained the nature of the eternal covenant to you. And if you come and look at this chart that is going to be there, this table that is going to be here, the nature of the eternal covenant, meaning that the human being essentially is a spiritual being, and the whole physical universe is the classroom for the training of this individual. And God has not left or will never leave human beings by themselves, but has made an agreement, has made a contract with humanity that He will send the manifestations of God, prophets of God, messengers of God, to train them while they are in the physical universe and prepare them for eternal life in all spiritual worlds of God. The duty of the manifestation of God is to transmit to humanity the teachings of God. Also, the manifestation acts as an example by the way he lives, by the way he talks, by the way he arranges his affairs, so that we can have, when we study the life of the manifestation of God, he's telling us practically how to live, how to apply these teachings to daily life. And as long as we find the manifestation of God for our own age, the religion of God is only one, but it is always renewed. And in this age, you have to follow the glory of God, Baha'i. This is the manifestation of God for you for today. It's no good to follow the manifestations of God for 2,000 years ago, or 5,000 years ago, or 6,000 years ago. They were perfect, they were good, we believe in them. But we believe that their teachings is progressive, and we have to follow always the latest teachings of God, so that God will bestow His bounties on us, He will confirm us, and we can develop spiritually. That was number one. Now, we are going to consider the second part of the covenant of God. And that is here, in this table here, the covenant of God with the manifestation regarding His revelation, its limitations, its duration. Unless you have studied the holy books of Baha'u'llah and the Baha'i writings in this dispensation, which is being revealed to mankind from 1844 until now, I am sure, no matter who you are, from which background you come from, you will not be able to understand this statement here. If you have studied your own holy scriptures and researched them and meditated on them, you may know a little bit of it, but the whole picture is very difficult to emerge unless you study the holy writings for this age. Let's examine now this statement and understand it. He says the covenant of God with the manifestation regarding his revelation. Now this may seem simple enough, but think a second by yourself. What does it really mean? The covenant of God with manifestation regarding his revelation. This kind of covenant is nothing to do with humanity at all. It is the agreement, this is a contract between the Almighty God, the essence of God, in Hahut, in the heaven of absolute oneness, with Logos, with the manifestation of God. It's nothing to do with the covenant of God with humanity. It's the covenant of God with the prophet of God, with the manifestation of God, with the messenger of God. Now, understand this. Now, when did this agreement take place? Listen to this carefully. We are coming to a very basic but very important concept here. From the study of the holy writings, it becomes clear that unlike human being, we said human spirit comes to an existence at the time of conception. It has a beginning, but it has no end, means it is going to live eternally. But in the case of the manifestations of God, like our Lord Krishna, our Lord Buddha, our Lord Moses, our Lord Zoroaster, our Lord Jesus Christ, our Lord Muhammad, our Lord Bab, and our Lord Baha'u'llah, and according to the traditions of Islam, 124,000 other prophets that they came before them. These manifestations of God, they come from the Logos, from the Lahut and Jabarut, from the plane of divinity and the all highest dominion. That's the two worlds of Logos. Their spirit has no beginning and no end. They are all Alpha and Omega. They have ever been. Unlike the human spirit, they are reflecting the Holy Spirit, or the most great Spirit. That Holy Spirit and the most great Spirit has ever been. There has not been a time that didn't exist. That's why Abdul Baha says the manifestation of God has got innate knowledge. Doesn't have to go through a process of education until he learns everything. He knows it already. So what we say, Listen to this, I'm going to summarize it for you. The spirit of the manifestation does not come into being at the time of conception. It existed before it and will live forever. That's the difference between a human being and a manifestation. Human spirit had a beginning which is at the time of conception, but the Holy Spirit of the manifestations of God did not have a beginning. They existed from beginning, and they will live forever. So there is no beginning for them and no end for them. Now, he says, covenant of God with the manifestation regarding his revelation. Now, what does it mean? It means before, from the all-highest dominion or the plane of divinity, the manifestation of God comes to this earth to teach, to train the humanity. He makes a contract with God before he comes. What is that contract about? What is he going to reveal? It is predestined what he's going to reveal. He cannot come and reveal everything that he wants. He has agreed that it has got a limit to his revelation. Why? Because in the holy writing, especially in the Baha'i writings, we read that Baha'u'llah says, for example, this statement. I'm paraphrasing it now. I'm not saying exact words of Baha'u'llah. He says in one of his holy tablets, Baha'u'llah says, in the heart of the Baha, there are many knowledges, plural, that I cannot reveal a letter of it even, a word of it even a glimpse of it yet. Because humanity at the moment is not ready for it. So therefore, in another word, Baha'u'llah emphatically says that he is not going to reveal all the truth that God has given him to humanity. He's made a contract with God that he will reveal to mankind his teaching according to the understandings of the people of the time and according to agreement of God to reveal these books and these teachings for this age. And also it will say its duration, meaning within each religion, if we study the Holy Scriptures carefully, in one way or another, the manifestation of God has said that his mission is for a period of time, usually in average for 1,000 years. In Islam, for example, a lot of Muslims, they will say, oh yes, Muhammad, the prophet of God, was the last prophet. There is not going to be another prophet. Well, they cannot show you at all a statement from Quran that says that after Muhammad there is going to be another Rasul. Only one statement we can find in Quran, and that says the Muhammad is the seal of prophets. But remember, in Arabic you have two words for manifestation of God. One is called Rasul, means messenger. One is Nabi, which means a prophet. Prophet prophesizes. Messenger brings a new book from God for mankind. Rasul means messenger. In Quran, we can never find, if you read from beginning to the end of it 100 times, that God has revealed that He is never going to send another Rasul, another messenger with a new book and teaching for mankind. Only says Muhammad also is a Nabi, meaning a prophet who prophesies, and he is the last prophet of that cycle. There is never going to be an end to the revelations and teachings of God. He does what He wills. He ordains what He wishes. He can do everything and whenever He wants it. So, and also in Quran it says, لِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ أَجَلًا مُسَمًّى. For every people, for every religion, for every dispensation and religion, there is an appointed end time. There is no finality for any religion. The third covenant is the covenant specifically referred to in the Baha'i revelation, but also we can see the glimpse of it in other holy books. So please note this term, the greater covenant, because you can never find it in another religion. The covenant of manifestation with the believers regarding the next manifestation. So, it means what? It means always when a new manifestation, a prophet of God comes, a messenger of God comes to humanity, if you read his new book, his new gospels, his new holy writings, one way or another he has said to the people who follow him and believe in him that after him there is going to be another manifestation. After him there is going to be a manifestation. So he said, every religion has taught its followers that after that manifestation, after that prophet, there is going to be a new revelation, a new manifestation. Now, for the sake of you mostly here in the United Kingdom who are from the Christian background, the chapter 24 of the Matthew is sufficient. All the chapter 24 of the Matthew talks about is about Jesus telling them when he will return, when his spirit comes. He says, I have many more things to tell you, but you cannot bear it now. Lo, when the Spirit of truth comes, he will teach you all truth. There is never been in any religion that there has not been announced to the people, taught to the people, that after that manifestation there is not going to be another manifestation. There is always going to be this covenant made with the believers of each religion that there is going to be a new manifestation, a new teachings of God. That is called the greater covenant, meaning one manifestation says that there is going to be a new one coming in good time. Number 4, the covenant of manifestation with the believers regarding the universal manifestation of God. Look at this sentence again carefully. The covenant of manifestation with the believers regarding the universal manifestation of God. Now listen to this carefully. I'm going to go back to a graph that I've shown you before. You see? We said religions come in cycles. This cycle starts with the appearance of one manifestation. The last time it was Adam. And it goes and goes and continues with so many manifestations coming until the cycle is ended. But human beings are not unlike animals to go through the same motions again and again. Then, when the cycle ends, a universal manifestation of God comes. What does that mean? Meaning, these religions have been taught to the peoples of the world as a whole by individual manifestations, and through their teachings, the humanity has gone from the stage of childhood to the stage of the adolescence. But now they have reached the next stage, a stage of maturation, becoming mature. According to the Baha'i faith, when a child becomes the first stage that the child is 16 years of age, we say his date of maturation, becoming mature, started now. Is responsible now. Until he is 14 and 15, for 13 and 12, he is innocent. He's not mature enough yet. But from that date, it becomes mature. The humanity as a whole also has gone through a stage of being a baby, being a little child, being a teenager, until they reach the age of maturity. A new cycle, a new phase starts then in the life of humanity. A new cycle comes now. With this new cycle, a new universal manifestation of God that all of them are promised will come. That's what we call it today, the day of God now. In all the scriptures, they talk about the day that God will gather all the humanity, all the religions, everybody together and unites them now. That is the age we are in now. That is the new cycle. This cycle is going to be 500,000 years. But within it, every 1,000 years there will be manifestations of God. After 500,000 years, again you will have a universal manifestation of God. Will take humanity one quantum leap further, 1 degree higher, and starts a new cycle. What it would be like then, we cannot even imagine it. It's beyond us. The same way as if you were living before 1844, and somebody had said to you, within 150 years, we are going to have airplanes that they can fly, and with 400 people in them, with this speed that they're going now. If you had said somebody that before 1844, they would have laughed at you. They could never have imagined such a thing occurring. So how could we possibly imagine what is going to happen in 500,000 years? It's beyond us. But humanity is going to progress, and we are going to reach that stage as well. And then last covenant, the lesser covenant. Again, this is a specific in the faith of Baha'u'llah, the Baha'i faith. And I'm going to explain the lesser covenant to you now. And then we are going to stop for a second. What does lesser covenant mean? Lesser covenant means that the manifestation of God makes a covenant with the people that believe in Him, that after He dies, who to follow? Who is going to succeed Him? Because you remember, we had this problem in all the religions, that after Buddha died, there was an absolute, an authentic document there to say who the Buddhists should follow from there on. Or after Christ again, who to follow exactly. Or after Muhammad, who to follow exactly. After Zoroaster, who to follow exactly. But in the Baha'i faith, God has given this opportunity to mankind. And Baha'u'llah, in his lifetime, with his own hand, with his own pen, wrote his will and testament and said that after him, his eldest son will succeed him, which Abdul Baha succeeded him from 1892 to 1921. And Abdul Baha, in his own handwriting, wrote that after he dies, Shoghi Effendi, the guardian, will succeed him. And according to the text of the Kitab Aqdas, the most holy book, after the guardian, we turn to universal house of justice, our beloved universal house of justice, that is elected universally by all the believers throughout the world every 5 years, and it has got 9 members. For 5 years, they will give us the guidance of God until the appearance of the next manifestation of God. That is what we call the lesser covenant. Now, I am going to show you quickly this book. This is a unique book in the Baha'i faith and in the whole world. It's written by a member of the Universal House of Justice, Mr. Adib Tahirzadeh. The title of the book is The Covenant of Baha'u'llah. This covenant of Baha'u'llah will protect the unity of the believers in Baha'u'llah, the glory of God. It will protect the whole of humanity. This covenant of God will ensure that humanity will prosper spiritually and physically and progress until the coming of the next manifestation of God. I am going to end this now, this section, this session, and I will continue after